Welcome. Here are the breaking news headlines from the latest and last of the polls undertaken by Survation for IG on the UK's EU referendum. At the People poll, 44% indicated that they would vote Leave, while 45% would vote Remain. The undecideds here looking like that they will dictate the final direction of the referendum. This poll has 11% undecided. Well, taking out those undecideds, 49 are in the Leave camp, while 51% of those polled are Remain. This marks a shift, albeit a small shift, from a majority Leave that we saw in last week's Survation IG poll. Adding back the undecideds, but asking them if they were to vote now, the split was 50.5 to 49.5 to Remain. As for the issues most talked about, we repeated the question that we surveyed people on last week about the issues that they felt were important. We asked about the economy, immigration, public services, which included the NHS, sovereignty, jobs, defence and the UK's influence on the world stage, and the emphasis, as you can here see, remaining on four key areas. The economy occupied the thoughts of 19.6% of those polled. Now, this was down from 21.9% last week. Immigration has fallen down the ranks, the list from 22.1% now standing at 17.4%. Concerns about sovereignty has risen from 10.6% to 12.1%. And public services, including that element about the NHS, is about the same at 15.5%. The remainder was spread over the other areas. So now, how can you trade this data? Well, IG runs a binary bet on the referendum, and this has consistently shown a bias to Remain, and today has shifted further back into the Remain camp. The IG Barometer, you can see here, 78.5% Remain, at 21.5% Leave. Now let's get some more detail on this latest survey. We now go with us here, our guest, regular guest, Damien Lyons-Lowe from Survation. Just take these numbers apart for us and explain exactly what's going on with this shift that we've seen over the last, 5 or 6 days or so.
Well, it's a really interesting time in the campaign. I think IG were actually quite bored at the constant Remain leads that we were reporting earlier this year. That all changed the last time I saw you, and we actually said, we actually reported to you that there'd been some movement to Leave, and I was quite, I didn't mince words about what a surprise that was to us. It was a big change. So since then, Survation conducted a recent poll for using the same method for Mail on Sunday, which people will be aware of. And today's poll for IG, with less than 2 days to go, shows Remain with a very, very narrow lead. So not extending the lead that we saw in our last poll, where fieldwork occurred Friday, Saturday, which moved the markets, moved currency, moved the FTSE.
But there has been this shift, hasn't there, back into the Remain camp. But I'm most interested in the undecideds, because that seems to me to be the really big swing element here.
Yeah. So as we have done consistently, when people tell us they're undecided and it's 11% of the sample, we say, look, if the referendum was today and you had to choose, would you vote to Leave or vote to stay, or would you not vote? At that point, a proportion, about a quarter, say, well, actually, I wouldn't vote. And about a third say, I still refuse to answer your question. It's between me and the ballot box. However, looking at how the remainder of the sample splits Leave to Remain, once we added that back, so when people state Leave or Remain as a voting intention, we arrive at the figure of 50.5% Remain, 49.5% Leave. So Leave up 1, Remain down 1 compared to the last Survation poll. Now, the number of persons that represents, and so I can tell you how close this is, that's 410 persons in total saying Remain, and 402 persons saying Leave.
So the balance is 8 people on what surveyed of 1,003?
It's literally 8 people of 1,003 people surveyed. It's really that close. We've got 2 days to go with the campaign, and I think it would be it would exaggerate the ability of a 1,000 sample poll to say that this is a callable situation. I think it's too close to call.
You've done these polls now for several years. Has it ever been this close on any other poll you've done where it's been this close, so close to an event like this?
No. The comparable event would be the Scottish independence referendum that Survation undertook, and we didn't see a no figure less than 52%. We never showed a yes lead at any time. Right. Here we have, because we showed you a lead for Leave. Yeah. And then that switching places. We didn't see that in the Scottish independence referendum. It looks to us much tighter and it will come down to factors such as turnout and the last days of the campaign and where public opinion shifts in the final moments before polling day.
What do you make of the questions we put in for the second time around, where we've seen immigration slide down from 22.1% down to 17.4%? The economy is no longer that important as we heard last week. It's now only 19%. It was 21%. What are your comments, your thoughts on the slide and the move around there? And it seems like to me sovereignty is now becoming more of an issue.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that it speaks to some of the shape of the campaign, right? Because we've heard less about the immigration message due to tragic events. It's been difficult to talk about hard messages on immigration when you have tragedies occurring that are, a sorrow to us as a nation. So we're hearing less about immigration. We're hearing more about sovereignty as, say, the Leave campaign switched from messages of independence and sovereignty from just talking about immigration as their sort of key strategy. That the economy is less important and other things are perhaps becoming more or equally important. I think people are a bit more relaxed, whether they're right or wrong, about whether there will be an economic disaster post a Brexit. I don't think people believe that, whether you or I think that's the case or not. The extent to which they believe that there'll absolutely be a recession after Brexit, I think is minimal when you ask people, is that what's going to happen? And we've seen that in your polling.
Yeah. OK, look, we've got to leave it there. Damien, thanks indeed for joining us and taking apart these numbers for us, which shows this small turnaround. But as Damien was saying, we've got to look at some elements that are now beginning to bore some people. The economy is one of them. But what does it mean for the markets and the economy? You've really got to ask people in the city about this. And we can now go to Sarah at Lambeth Bridge.
Thanks very much, Jerry. Yes, behind us we have Westminster, where yesterday Parliament was recalled to pay tribute to the murdered MP Jo Cox, and where last May the Queen unveiled the European Union referendum bill, setting us up for the vote in 2 days' time. And with the polls now still neck and neck, but as we've seen, Remain's now back in the lead. Well, joining us for more on the impact on the markets and the economy is Nick Parsons from National Australia Bank. Thanks very much for joining us. So, I mean, we really are still tied, aren't we, here?
Well, it is really too close to call. It's one of the oldest cliches in the book. But whether we're looking at 48-52 or 51-49, it really is nowhere within anyone's bounds of confidence. And I think that's going to make for very, very nervous, jittery markets through the night on Thursday. Not just when markets reopen for trading Friday morning, but through that night we're going to see potentially some very big swings across currencies.
I mean, that's it. The volatility we have seen throughout this whole campaign, but specifically over the last week, is quite incredible.
It's incredible, but not unprecedented. If we recall back to the Scottish referendum nearly 2 years ago, we had the so-called rogue poll that put the Leavers in front, and yet within a week, the polls had swung back the other way, and eventually it came into a Remain vote. If I had to put money on the table, thankfully I don't, but if I did, I think we're going to see a repeat of that sort of price action, a very narrow Remain victory, but it's going to leave as many questions unanswered over the next few weeks as the referendum itself clears up.
That's it. And the one thing that I don't think has been addressed so much is the impact on Europe. We've seen that the yields on the Italian, the German, really narrowing, like 11 points. I mean, and that's quite incredible. What is the impact there?
I think the impact on Europe is really going to be in terms of defensive plays. Where's the havens for people who are looking to position themselves even at this very late stage? Where are the havens and where are the opportunities? The great opportunity, and probably the most underpriced one, is the euro itself. We hear a lot about how the pound is going to fall in the event of a Remain vote. What we hear much less of is the fact that the euro is going to fall even further. Because, of course, a Remain vote would open up an existential crisis. The very future of Europe and the single currency would be thrown into question. And against that sort of background, where you have the Front National in France doing really well, Alternative für Deutschland in Germany taking over a quarter of the popular vote, then we're going to see pressure for their own referendums, their own campaigns right across continental Europe. So a euro which sits today, as we speak, around the 113 level against the dollar, we think could go within a matter of hours to parity. So it's not just the pound that's going to be very volatile, it's also the single European currency.
But also the markets as a whole, you said, not just Friday morning, but throughout Thursday night. I mean, the FTSE is the one everyone's talking about, but this does have a global ramifications.
Well, it most certainly does. It's because of the Brexit vote, for example, that the US Federal Reserve voted to keep rates unchanged. So this is not just a local parochial affair which has impact only on the Palace of Westminster behind us as we're talking. This is a global event, and I think it's only very late in the day that global investors have really begun to understand its consequences and the ramifications for them. They've tended to ignore it, thinking it was a little local UK affair. Actually, this is global, and this, for rightly or wrongly, whatever the reasons, this puts global financial markets spotlight firmly back onto London and the UK.
Let's look at the London market and one of the big movers, and that is the FTSE. What did you make of George Osborne saying that he wasn't ruling out suspending trade on the FTSE on Friday? Doesn't that just push problems elsewhere?
I think the problem that investors have with George Osborne's threats and promises is that they seem to be increasingly extreme. And he, of all people, knows the dangers of excessive volatility in financial markets. If anything, is contributing to that volatility. Financial markets thrive on liquidity, and financial markets are global and interlinked. So if we were to close London, to take his latest threat as just one example of this, if we were to close the London Stock Exchange, business would migrate elsewhere, not just for one day, but there'd be permanent questions over the functioning of London as a global financial centre. I do believe that's quite a hollow threat.
Okay, Nick Parsons, thank you very much from National Australia Bank there. So a very volatile 48 hours ahead of the vote on Thursday, and of course that last debate at Wembley tonight. Back to you, Jerry.
Yeah, Sarah, thanks so much indeed. Just a quick reminder as well as to just exactly how things come together, because we've got polling starting at 7 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. You'll be able to go to the polls and cast your vote from 7 o'clock. It goes right the way through until 10 o'clock in the evening. A lot of local centres involved. You can see that when they're collected into 11 regional totals that we've got a lot of counting to do. 75% of the results known just before the European markets get underway. Well, you can continue to trade this market on the IG platform right the way throughout. We've got Matt Brief here, who's head of dealing at IG. Matt, this is a massive event. We've heard that it's never been this close for a Survation and their polls ever on any of the other referenda or elections they've ever undertaken. This so close to an event. We have on our platform, of course, you can trade a whole range of markets, including the binary. Just explain exactly how the binary works. So we're talking there about the processes and the counting and so forth going on throughout Thursday. Explain more about what the binary, how it's available to the client base.
Well, our binary is available 24 hours a day. It'll be available all through the night as results come in. We're currently saying there's about a 75–76% chance that Remain will win. And like I said, yeah, available all night. Yeah.
What about the risks involved here? Explain a bit more about some of the risk management that people ought to undertake.
Well, I mean, we've had a lot of clients coming in, like I said, I think last time, we've had a lot of clients coming in and back in leave. They're worried about the fact that FTSE might go down on the Friday. They're worried about their equity portfolio. We've even had some worried about their house prices. So some of them are using it as a hedge. Some of them are backing Remain because they think there'll be that late move to the status quo that we talk about a lot. And some of them are just speculating it. They see the polls are very close. They think it's a 50-50. The market is clearly not pricing it in to be a 50-50. We see the FTSE above 6,100. We see cable going above 147. The market does not think it's a 50-50, and the polls are saying it's a 50-50. So a real divergence of opinion amongst our clients. We have some clients that are going with the polls and some clients that are just going with the betting markets, and they do see that late swing to the status quo.
Yeah, let's go back. I know we showed this. Just go back to the chart showing the binary bet at the moment, and the wild swing, even this is a daily chart here, showing the wild swings intraday. At the moment, as you say, we've pulled back even, I think, in the last hour or so. If we can go onto an hourly chart, you can see the movement that we've had in the last hour, the way in which this is swinging. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we touched 80% earlier on Remain. I think this poll's just been released, and I think we're going back towards 75%. I think it's just I think it just reinforces the fact that the polls are 50-50. And there's obviously been a big move towards Remain sentiment lately. People are going with that, the market's going with that. But at the end of the day, if the polls do remain 50-50, I think you're going to get some people who are seeing cable up here. They're seeing that the high percentage chance for Remain. They're seeing this is a good opportunity to hedge. Polls are 50-50. It is possible Leave wins. I think the market's very clear. There'll be a move towards status quo, but the market is trading at levels that make it very easy to hedge your bets.
Yeah, and talking a little bit about the order of events again, going back to the fact that we got the binary overnight, and it will close out at a point, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, we won't close that market until the result is known. We might close all bets before the official announcement's known. I think we'll probably know the result around about 5 a.m, 6 a.m, and if we're confident that we know the result, we'll close the market and we'll close all trades on that. The official result's probably not due until 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. And just a bit of a bigger picture stuff, if I may. IG will be, just to remind clients, will be increasing our margin rates tomorrow on a lot of affected markets just to reflect the increased volatility, and we'd obviously just urge clients to be particularly careful. It's very interesting market, there's a lot of opportunities out there, but with the increased opportunity obviously comes increased risk, and we just stress that they're very important that they manage their positions and that they're comfortable with the risks that they're taking. And on the night itself, 10 p.m. is obviously when voting ends. That's when the embargo on exit polls is removed. We don't believe there's an official exit poll, but there may well be a few opinion polls that are done on the day that gets released at 10 o'clock. So there is a chance that the market has a decent move at 10 p.m. So again, we'd urge clients to be careful around that time. And then obviously results start coming in between sort of 12:30 and 5 a.m. and that's obviously going to be a very volatile period.
If there is so much uncertainty and George Osborne does go with what he's been threatening as that we cancels trade on Friday or postpones it or suspends it or whatever on the main benchmark index in London, how does that affect IG clients?
Well, I don't think we've had that before, so IG will try our best to carry on quoting it, and I'm sure we will be able to carry on quoting it. I'm not sure if
it's a question of watching the space, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's much chance of that happening. I think the market kind of we kind of know in the market you can see where the FTSE will be trading if there is a Brexit. I think it will clearly be a surprise, but our market is saying there's a 25% chance of it happening. There will be contingencies in place. I can't see trading stopping, and in the unlikely event it does, IG will certainly carry on quoting the market 24 hours a day.
Absolutely, soldiering on. Matt, thanks so much indeed, Head of Dealing here at IG. IG will have special live shows on Friday in the wake of the referendum. Results or not, we start at 6 a.m. UK time when we may have the result. However, if it's a close call and there are ordered recounts, we still may not know the result at this point. We'll have our usual 7:30 as well, an early morning call where we update investors on some of the aspects to watch as we enter into the trading day across Europe. And then there is a special charting show on Friday morning, every day at 10:30, every weekday we have charting the markets. So on Friday we'll have Nicole Elliott in. I was talking to Nicole just yesterday about this, and she was saying clearly we can only make decisions on which markets to cover in the lead up to the live at 10:30. So independent technical analyst Nicole Elliott with us with her latest thoughts on how to chart the markets in the wake of, at that time of day, almost certainly going to be a result of some sort, but we'll see. And of course, you can follow us as well if you want notifications on Facebook of the lives that we are running. Search IG Group and like the page on our Facebook page, then accept all notifications from IG. We only run occasional live bulletins, so you'll not be bombarded with spam. Instead, just receive all the important information about when we are going live. And of course, it won't just be for these live bulletins on Friday. We run special lives as well at various points of the week. For example, the next big one that we've got scheduled will, of course, be at 1:30 p.m. UK time on the first Friday of the month, with that next set of data out from the US on non-farm payrolls. That's it for this special show. Just to quickly run through some of the numbers that we've got. We've got a leave 44, remain 45, undecided at 11, which we're all saying is going to be the real big issue as to way those undecideds vote on Thursday for the referendum. Enjoy the day, stay safe, and as Matt was saying, make sure that you put in place all sorts of risk management. If you are unsure, please do speak with us here at IG. We are here to help, and we will give you help right the way throughout the night on Thursday into Friday.